All right, we are back. We have another episode here. We're joined by a really special guest. We have Cameron Hughes. He is the professional fan. If you've been to an NHL game in the past 24, 25, 26 years, you've seen him. He's got a new book coming out, King of Cheer. So, Cameron, welcome to the Fan Factory podcast.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. I mean, an interesting time to be a fan, no doubt, right?
Absolutely. That's kind of the genesis of this whole podcast that we started here quite a few weeks back. You know, Adam and I both worked in sports and, you know, we're both on the outside now. Adam's still in it, but just the thought of it's been a year now with no fans at games and how weird it's been. And there's a void. You know, there's a lot of people that they dedicate their entire lives, just like yourself, to going to games. So just want to highlight a lot of those folks, you know, hear their story and let them, you know, get out some pent up aggression that they've had sitting.
Pent up cheer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess my first question for you is how does somebody become a professional fan? How does that all come about?
Well, you have to have no talent, first of all, to do anything else. That's how, you know, I always joke about. I mean, you look around my room here, I've got jerseys from every team in sports, and it all started off as a joke, really. But as a kid, I was sitting at a CFL football game. I was around 10 years old, and something caught my attention in between plays. And it was this guy in his mid-30s standing there with like a construction helmet with the team logo of the CFL team, and he was getting the crowd going. And I remember saying to my dad, look at that. And my dad's like, yeah, that's amazing. I'm like, no, come on. You know, like I was the guy who cared more about the guy getting the crowd going than the quarterback or the receiver. I was like, wow, look at that. And I remember saying to him at an early age, I think I could do that. And my dad's like, yeah, okay, whatever. You know what I mean? And then when I got my career going, you know, went to a Senators game one night in Ottawa from Canada. And I got up and started getting the crowd going, and they were like, what are you doing? Like, what's he doing? Why is he doing that? You know? And the whole thing is like, I've told people this, you know, literally for years. I could have got up the one time, could have had the moment. We've all been to sporting events. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. There's that moment, something funny happens, and then it's over, right? I decided, that's why I've been doing this for 26 star asterisks this year, because I got up the second time. That's it. You know, I didn't go there planning to like cheer and dance and tour stadiums for my life.
Yep.
But I knew in me, there was something in me after I got up the first time, I had to keep going. And that's why the team asked me back. And, you know, here I am.
That's
very
great.
Cool. Now, did you grow up like an Ottawa Senators fan then, and you would go to their games on the normal basis, or was it like here and there you go to games, or how'd that work out?
Well, yeah, I was in between sort of university trying to figure out what to do with my life. And I had a bit of money from some part-time jobs, and I bought season tickets when the team was new, but my seats were like second highest level. And then the game that I got up, I had better seats. It was like fortuitous. The whole thing, it was a quiet game. The team was losing, and it was just like this magical thing happened. And the Senators fans, you know, gave me that shot. Like, what if the crowd hadn't reacted, right? I'd be like, I don't know what I would be doing.
So
very cool.
You mentioned that you got up that first time and you got caught by the camera. Obviously, like you said, people go to games all the time. They get that moment. They're on camera, and then you never see them again. What did the Senators approach you after that game, after the reaction that you got, and said, hey, would you mind coming back and doing this again? Like, it was such a great game entertainment, you know, feature of the night.
Yes. So after the first time I got up, I went to the aisle, and that was, you know, where it was also different. So it was like, it was spectacle, you know, which a lot of people, I mean, you watch all those funny YouTube videos, most of them aren't doing it in the aisle. They're doing it in their seat. And I don't know what possessed me. It was just a combination of everything in my life led to that moment. That's the way I look at it. Yeah. And then I go back to my seat, and there's a guy from the Senators there, and he's like, hey, we want to, like, you can't kick me out. The game's over, you know? No. And he was like, hey, you know, my boss, who's the head of entertainment and events, wants your number. He wants to call you and bring you back. And I'm like, what does he want me to do? You know, I didn't get it. And that Monday when he called me, and then I went into his office that week, was like, I wish, you know, it was 27 years ago. I wish I'd filmed that moment. I couldn't, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, these days it'd be on 20 different iPhones, but
it's like, well, so you're sitting there and he's like, so what was that all about? You know, like, oh, well, I just wanted to get the crowd going. Oh, well, it was funny. I noticed your DJ turned up the music. I noticed your DJ played more dance music. And then he's like, you want to come back? And my answer was, and what do you want me to do? You know?
Yep.
So here we are. You know, it's crazy. The trajectory is pretty funny for me, right? To live it, you know?
So
Absolutely.
I think one thing I want to ask is like how, like we talk about iPhones and cameras, like I think if we got to look back even like 27 years, it probably wasn't even a video board, right? So how has the video board and everything changed your career over the years?
You know, it's one of the most unquestioned questions, like if that's even a word, but people don't ask me that a lot. It's such a good question because back in the day, there was no video boards in that arena that I was performing in, right? So it was all about the pure human interaction, a contest maybe here and there, the DJ, the organ, maybe a host in the crowd. So they didn't rely on the video board. So what I did worked really well, right? Then the video board comes along and the video board really helped me because in a big stadium, they'd show me and they'd be, oh, it's the crazy guy. You know what I mean? And now years and years later, as I've developed this and made it like more into a career and worked harder at making the moments pop, you know, I use the video board to my advantage to make that first hit something really special. But if I'm in an arena where I've never been, right? If I've done first time I've ever done a game, let's say the Detroit Red Wings where I've never been, and I'm going in there, we set it up so that it's like fan shot, go to me. And I'm like, you know, acting nonchalant, boom, comes to me. I get up and go crazy. Fans love it. And then, you know, we go from there. But the interesting thing, the flip side of that is I did a game for a big NHL team, big new building years ago. And the head of entertainment comes in, guys, and he said to me, which he normally doesn't do always, you know, he's got a lot to do. And he says, oh, I'm so glad you're here tonight. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, you get such a big pop. And then he pauses and he says, no matter how much I work at doing all that stuff and the magic on the video board, when you get up, the crowd goes crazy. And I think we've relied too much on the video boards in some ways, right? Mm-hmm. Sponsorship departments are like, we got to run these 90-second ad or 2-minute ad during your full timeout. And then what do? You kill the energy, right? Yep. So I think we're learning to balance that out more. I hope we are.
Yeah, I think like a follow-up I'd have to that is like one thing we do here and we like to talk about is that kind of big pop or that big game buzz. And I think it kind of like, you know, if you go to a big game, no matter who it is, if it's a playoff game or whatever, there's a big buzz. And it's kind of cool that you can kind of flip that switch and kind of turn that buzz up. So kind of explain how that feeling is for you to do that for people every day.
Well, yeah, that's interesting because a lot of people say, well, why would you know, I did up until last year, I did 5 NBA finals in a row. I did NHL finals. I did, you know, major championship games, the Olympics, and people are like, I'm not saying that to be bragging. I'm just saying that's just the reality. And they're like, why do they need you? And I'm like, well, every game goes through its ebbs and flows. It's a roller coaster of emotion. It's like an orchestra leader, you know, up and down and all that. So they use me at the right time to bring that. I'm always like fighting with, not literally fighting, but trying to get that hit when it's a lull in the game and bring that energy back up, you know? And the best moments in my career have been when entertainment directors, producers, marketers, DJs, etc., see that, right? Feel that. Okay, we need to like, let's go to Cameron, or, you know, like maybe they weren't planning on using me in the second half of the game or the second period of the hockey game. All right, we need something. Go, you know?
Very cool.
So how does it work on your end? And it happens all the time. It's the one great thing about sports is it's so unpredictable. Is you go into a home building and the home team's down 4-0 after the first period. You know, second period comes up, obviously team comes out flat. Like, how do you get yourself up to then, you know, obviously it's your job, but you know, if the crowd isn't feeling it, how do you just get yourself up to keep going in a situation like that?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a really, really hard thing. I'm a human being. I'm not hiding behind a costume that you can kind of hide in the corner. You know, I think for me, what I've learned to do is look for that moment for me and my switch where I interact with a fan or I do something crazy. And then I realized, you know what I realized ultimately, guys, is these fans paid good money to come to the game. Let's entertain them no matter what. And then oftentimes it's happened for me where suddenly it's 4-1. That switch goes off in me. And I'm like, we're going to win tonight. And I'm like convincing the fans that the louder we get, the more the team's going to respond to that energy. And there's a great story in my book about a minor league hockey game in Kamloops, BC. Big playoff game. They bring me in. They're down 4-0, 5-0, something like that. And I think it was one of the first times I was there, or second or something. And they bring me in and it's like 4-0 the first period. Just like the energy deflated. People wanted to go home. They came back and won the game. And I don't remember a lot of games in my career, all of them. I mean, but that one there was insane because the crowd popped so much. And every player that was on that bench, I guarantee you, if you called them now, and this was years ago, they would remember that game and the feeling that the crowd gave them. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I can attest to that because we were talking before here, and I had come across you about 5-6 years ago now at a Dallas Stars game, and I believe the team was down at the time, and all of a sudden I see this guy in the upper deck flinging around T-shirts, and first thought comes to my head is, who the hell is this guy, and how did he get in with all those T-shirts? But he is causing a ruckus, and this place is getting loud, and the team is feeding off that momentum. Next thing you know, we scored a goal, and I wound up winning the game. And I think you came back maybe the next night or the 2 nights later. I'm like, this guy's our lucky charm. Like, whose season ticket holder is this? Like, who is this guy? So I guess going into that, obviously you're going into all these different buildings, across the league. Do you still get that unrecognizable, like, people tapping you on the shoulder, like, hey, like, who are you and why are you so crazy?
Well, yeah, I get that a lot. And it keeps me going too, because it's like, it's that sense of mystery. They don't promote me at the games. They never have. They have once or twice. Once because it was my 1,000th game. Once because it was a mistake. But it's still that sense of like, I want to create that same feeling from that first night I ever got up, because that's the truth behind what I did. I never went to that arena to go, hey, I did it because I genuinely was upset we weren't cheering, and I wanted people to have more fun at the game. That's how I've lived my whole life. In high school, I was student president, head of events, same in university. I always wanted people to have more fun. Yeah. So that's where it starts for me. I go to a coffee shop and I want, today I did, this morning, I wanted everyone to be like, what's up? I'm leaving. I'm like, hey, we'll catch you later. And they're all like, is he okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm great. Doesn't mean I live like that every day, but when I go to an event, it's just this thing that's in me. It's like, I can't describe it. And that's what keeps me going if we're down 4-0, or that's what keeps me going if I'm tired from traveling, or,
Sure.
Yeah. I think, this is going to be a sports nerd question of me because, I work in the business, but, do teams like to book you when they know they're going to have a big crowd? And how much harder is it when you go into some buildings where there's maybe a small crowd to kind of get it going? Is there a conflict there, or is it pretty easy to get it going either way?
Well, you're asking me to talk about my ego. I mean, it's interesting because if I looked at like 100 games I've done, I bet 50 of them were like a quieter night when they needed something. And then the other half were, hey, we've got the Blackhawks in tonight against the Stars, and it's going to be big because there's going to be a couple thousand fans from Chicago there. We want you there to keep it going, So it's a bit of both. But for me, what I've learned early in my career, and I've stuck with it, I've lived with it, I've learned from it, is that, I've done this in 10 different countries, some countries that don't speak English, and some in England that only speak beer. And the crowd is a crowd. They just want to be moved. They want to have fun. And I truly don't believe the video board come in full circle amplifies that when they see me doing something, but that human interaction when I'm closer to people, those real touches that aren't always on the Jumbotron, those are most of the stories in my book. Yeah. Those are most of the things that people remember, right?
Yeah.
The Jumbotron helps set the tone.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's that intimate connection of And you know what I mean? I'm going deep with you guys, but I think you know what I mean.
I know.
it.
This is great. I think like a follow up to that, like you kind of said, like it's kind of a cheering thing. So you mentioned going over to England, and I'm assuming doing some soccer or what they call football.
Rugby.
Do you,
I've never done
rugby?
soccer before in my life,
rugby.
by the way.
But so with rugby, then I guess would it be like, do you do a little research on the team before going in, or is it kind of like I'm just going to go there and go crazy?
Well, I mean, you talk to the people that are bringing you in, and you find out a bit about their mindset and attitude, and standard question: how's the team doing? How have the fans been? Am I going to get the shit kicked out of me tonight? I did a game. I don't know if you can see the jersey. I don't think it's Leeds Rhinos, which is a football team, rugby team. Sorry, Super League up in the UK, and first time ever doing rugby in the UK. And I got up the first time. Rugby is 2 45-minute halves, so there's no timeouts. You go to an NBA game, NHL game, NFL game. There's nothing but timeouts. So I had to perform before the game started. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Because there's no media timeouts. There's nothing, right? So
it's like doing the first dance before you said I do. You know what I mean?
And you got to hope that carries all the way through till the end.
I got up, and it took there's an awkward video of me dancing for like 45 seconds, a minute. And then finally the crowd's like, oh, okay. Bloody well, chap. Good for you. And I won them over, which is like, there's been plenty of stories of that, winning them over, And I think that as director, if you're in entertainment and marketing, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to win the crowd over and show them something different, the old gladiator quote, but it's true, right?
Absolutely.
And the teams, by the way, on that note, you got me going here. The teams that do the best and ultimately have success financially and on the court or the ice or the field are the ones that don't forget that. Keep showing them something different. Don't be complacent just because your arena's selling out or because you're winning,
Agree.
I am a huge advocate of that statement. That's for sure. Did you party at Prince's house?
Correct.
How did that happen?
That came out of nowhere. I was living in Los Angeles. I was working with some in entertainment, and my buddy and I both got invited to go to Prince's house after the screening of, wait for it, Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants Part 2.
Ooh.
His friend directed it, and they were having the after party at his house after the after party, and we got invited, and we were like, what? Are you sure? And we drove up to, it's called Billionaires Row. We drove up in our little Ford Focus, I think this was 12 years ago. And we partied with him. We hung out with him. And at one point he told me to slow down my dancing around his beautiful ladies, but I did. I listened.
I was going to ask if you got any dance moves or dance tips from him.
He was DJing downstairs in his basement, and there's 20 people. It was unbelievable.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And that's a type of experience thing that I think sports fans live for, right? Are those little tidbits that you can tell people is that I partied with 20 people in Prince's house and Prince was a DJ, right?
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to just bring this back to my book, but the first thing I say in my book is stories of showing up. Mm-hmm. That's the first line in my tagline, because you all of us could plan the most amazing night at a baseball game, hockey game, and we all know it's the magic comes from the spontaneity, but we have to allow that spontaneity to grow, to come, to pop, right?
Yep.
And I did a LinkedIn video about, I don't know, a couple months ago during this crazy time, and I challenged everyone who's in events, rip up the script, stop, just shake it up.
I agree. Yeah, that's yeah.
And unfortunately, the conservative teams will go back to being conservative, and
mm-hmm.
and it doesn't mean you shouldn't try stuff though. Try it. And we talked earlier about Las Vegas. I mean, every team in sports wanted to be Vegas after their first year, and the three things that Vegas did was they gave their fans permission to act as crazy on a Tuesday as a Saturday. They tried stuff all the time, and they put a budget into it. You know what I mean? They put their money where their mouth was,
Yep.
Absolutely. So a little bit off that, I mean, can you, kind of want to put you on the spot here, but can you name your favorite arena, maybe in hockey or maybe a minor league place, or where your favorite place is kind of to perform when you walk in there? You're just like, oh, I love this place.
Well, for me, on a big level, I love the U.S. Open, Arthur Ashe Stadium. I performed there for 8 years, and it's just such a different venue for me because I barely even perform there. I do it twice a night. I get up maybe 3 times, but it's that raw energy of when I do is just amazing. Vegas is super special. I've done 50 games there. I always know the crowd, even if it's like a Wednesday against, one of the worst teams in the NHL, it's going to pop. And then there's like the minor league rinks that I love going to in like either small town, middle of like a cold wintry night on a Saturday in like Red Deer, Alberta, and everyone's freezing, and I'm like, I'm going for it, like I challenge myself too, right?
Yeah, I think like right now we would all kill for a Saturday night in Red Deer, Alberta, right? To get back in there.
Anything
So, things I never ever thought you would say. Yeah. Just take that clip and that'll go. That'll blow up in Red Deer. I love Red Deer, but can I say something on that point? I look around my studio here with, I don't know, 65, 75 jerseys. And there are as many minor league jerseys as major league jerseys. And that's something that kept me going. I started in the NHL, and then I went to the minor leagues, and then I went back and forth, and then it was all over the place. One night I'd be doing an NHL game, and the next night I'm like taking 3 flights to get to, Rapid City, South Dakota to do a, Rapid City Rush game,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I listened to a couple of your interviews in the past, and I've heard you talk about some of your cool run-ins, like the Prince thing, and then also Sid at the Olympics, or, some of that stuff. Has there been ever any cool run-ins with like actual fans though, where they really appreciate what you're doing and, of different teams, and they kind of show you the passion that they have as well?
Yeah. I mean, there's been, I remember being fish out of water at a game in Laredo, Texas. I was like 6'4" Canadian, pale as can be. And it was very Hispanic crowd. And they were like, oh my God, this guy's insane. And by the end of the game, I'm like high-fiving, like everyone's celebrating life. And, and they all the fans invited me to a tailgate. It's like a Sunday or Saturday afternoon. I can't remember. And for hours, I'm like, I'm not leaving. I became part of the community.
Yeah.
Then there's other times where fans, like the kid climbs on your shoulders, and every game the family wants to know when you're coming back. And then, then they make a donation to, a charity. My mother passed away from breast cancer. So they make a donation to her foundation, and you're like, what? And that's the community aspect of sports that it's beautiful. Like,
yeah. And I think that's what we're missing right now, right? Like that's what we're missing is the community aspects of sports, where you can have different opinions in life, but the two of you can stand by side and cheer for the same team. Dude, and cheer for the same.
Yeah. I run down the stairs. Everyone's got the back to me. I turn around and I see your faces. I don't know what you believe in. I don't know what your religion is. I don't know anything. I don't care. We're all in this together. Let's have fun. And that's how life should be. But that's a whole other, probably a whole other podcast.
Yeah. We'll get a little bit lighter here. So like, what's your relationship with like mascots? Is it like, like you're stealing their show for one night? Do they get mad at you? Or
well, I mean, there's some good stories, and there's a few stories in the book about mascots. I've had everything from minor league hockey game where like the grown man, I was like, I don't know, 12, 15 years ago. And a grown man, like much older than me, comes in, and he's like, you could just he reeks of booze, and he's like, puts on the suit, and you're like, should we say something? You know what I mean?
Sounds
like,
about right.
Right out of semi-pro. And that happens. I've had many entertainment marketing people who have hired me say their mascot does a better job when I'm there that night. And that might sound like the most egotistical thing I could say, but I don't think it is.
Yeah.
Because I made a decision. I was a mascot. I was a mascot for the AAA Ottawa Lynx baseball team. I was the crazy guy in college that had a, watermelon on, obviously. But I wanted that personal interaction. And I think a lot of mascots do as well, but they're not supposed to talk. So, and then the flip side of that is I've had some great moments with mascots, like the Cleveland Cavaliers, Moondog and Cece. They brought me out on center court, and I jumped through the big flag, and I'm surprised 22,000 people. We do a slow clap with a drum with them. So it's a bit of both. But at the same time, I'm like, the mascot's there to do the mascot thing. I'm there to do my thing. So I don't not want to interact with them, but I don't need to. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
you're spot on by how, and those suits get stinky too. So you have a better situation because you don't have to wear a stinky suit.
Well, Cameron, I know we're kind of up against it here. I know you've got to kind of get running here soon. So, one last question I had for you is, are you still able to be a fan? Like, can you still go home at night, watch Senators highlights right now, probably get pissed when you watch them, but, can you still, follow the team and be passionate about them and, want to take a night off maybe and sit in the stands and have a beer?
Yeah, I mean, I don't go to a lot of games, but when I do, I really, really enjoy a sip of beer. I joke with a lot of fans who, drink beer in front of me. I'm like, I never obviously drink or eat during a game, but there they are chugging beers, and I'm like, hey, can I join you? I can. At first, I would say nobody would want to go to games with me in the early days, like, because I would always be itching to do something. And then nowadays I've become calmer because I would be like, why aren't they doing this? They should do this. Why is it so quiet? Because I read it. That's what I do, right? Yeah. I read it. And, but like, yeah, I've loved watching. I've got a few favorite teams in the NHL and that I follow in sports, and some players that I love, and tennis as well. And I enjoy just feeling it. You know what I mean? And I think, like you said too, Adam, we're all missing that human connection. That, one of my favorite stories about Vegas was a group of people, these people that I met, really nice fans, and they were hanging out with this other group. I was like, oh my God, you guys, like, how long have you been friends? Like 10, 15, 8 years, whatever. And they're like, we just met last year through the Golden Knights. And I was like, wow, sports is powerful, right?
Yeah.
And, that's why, especially for me, to be able to come in and be part of a community like that, whether it's a big event or small. I mean, how lucky am I, right? I love it.
That's awesome. I got a couple more questions for you. So
let's do it.
What's the white whale? What's the one event you want to do? Let's hear it.
My own wedding.
You said that, like, I have a wedding coming up, and I might just hire you as my hype man throughout the entire day.
I haven't worked in a year, so you can't afford me. I'm charging a lot now.
Or you might be desperate.
Go the other way.
We'll see how the book sales go.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah, on that note, I've done some interesting stuff over the last year to, you want to do my daughter's bat mitzvah and FaceTime her? I'm like, sure, I will pay you. I'm like, I'll just do it.
Right.
My first gut is the Super Bowl to prove that I can do it. I think I would surprise a lot of people. I think it would work if they set me up for success. I did the Grey Cup in Canada with 68,000 people one night, and it was electric. Yeah.
That's very cool. And then obviously like a Senators Stanley Cup, right?
Obviously.
So I'll tell you really quick before we finish here. So we did it a couple episodes ago. In our first episode, we did a redraft of our teams in the fan bases. And so you got to pick a new fan base. Basically, you're buying pennies on the dollar, right? So you can make it rich one day. And Lyle here picked your Ottawa Senators, and he caught a lot of heat for it.
Lyle, massive respect.
I think the future's bright. There's a lot of draft picks coming up. As long as they don't mess up the draft picks, yeah, that's a beautiful sweater.
Yeah. The original sweater, that's how they paid me the first year.
The way I looked at it is, if I'm buying penny stocks, why not buy the one that's, pennies?
Come on, exactly. They've got some great players, and they're going to have to pay them eventually, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think they need a new building, right? Like from
what
I understand,
they need to be downtown. That's another part of the community thing. Like, I mean, we could name the best 31 rinks in the NHL. I bet 22 of them that we would name are downtown, wherever they are.
Sure. Yep.
Such a big part of it for any team, any sport. Yeah, they're in a cornfield.
We'll see. He said give them 2 years. So we'll go back to this subject in 2 years and see where you guys are at. But
okay, perfect. I mean,
one last thing
with the jerseys to the game downtown.
Perfect.
Hopefully, what's the deal with all the jerseys? Performing. I'll be in the mascot suit by then.
Sweating away. What's the deal with all the jerseys? So do they give those to you usually when you go, or how's that work when all your jerseys you have?
Yeah, I get a jersey usually from every team, and over the years they've I come back to a lot of them, so they let me keep them. I think you can see I've got Atlanta Thrashers over here. I got some interesting jerseys. I got a question for each of you guys.
Yeah.
I'll start with Lyle. What's your favorite moment in sports as a fan?
Ooh, there's a few. So I'm from New York.
You
So
only get one.
yeah, no, I was at the game when Mike Piazza hit the home run after 9/11.
Oh,
Powerful moment, right? You
powerful moment.
talk about powerful, getting deep
Wow.
moments. That was the first game back after 9/11. Mets were down 3-2 in the 8th inning, and Piazza hits a go-ahead home run. Like, talk about bringing a city back, electric buzz in a building. Like that, by far, I'll go to, like, there's not going to be another moment that captures that other than if I'm at like a
The joy in your heart, and that was 20 years ago. Like you could, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't
That's
miss that.
amazing.
They replay it every year on 9/11, and I watch the entire thing every year.
Yeah. Wow. Adam.
I mean, mine's gonna be a lot less shallow, more shallow than that. But no, you know what? Actually, for me, it's like a fan and an employee. When I was with the Utica Comets, we went to the Calder Cup Finals, and when we won the Western Conference Finals at the time, it's just insane. Like, to see our fans so happy, to see our staff so happy, to see everybody so happy that we made it that far. That was a thrill. So something like that was really cool to me. And I still get goosebumps thinking about those nights and the parties and all that good stuff.
Well, the amount of work you put in too as a team to get there is like, people don't understand it, right?
No.
Yeah, it's not something a lot of people understand, but it's something, like, at the end of the day, though, like, we get the opportunity to go to a stadium and arena to work, which is awesome. It's the best thing, I think. Yeah. And to finish it off here, like, I just applaud you. You get to do something you love every day, and I don't think everybody gets that opportunity. So that's good on you that you get to do that.
Well, keep showing up, keep getting up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's true. I mean, as much as the highs and lows of, as much as I've done 1,500 events, there's a lot of people that said no, but it's the yeses that matter, and those great moments that, I'll walk away with. So I appreciate it, guys.
Yeah. When you come up here to Minneapolis next time for a game, we'll go for a beer after the game.
After to celebrate.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
I love it.
Thanks, Cameron.
Well, thanks a lot, Cameron. Again, the book is King of Cheer. We're actually going to buy a few books ourselves, and we'll be giving them away on Instagram. So definitely give us a follow. We'll be giving them away to all of our followers. So we'll run some contests here soon. So Cameron,
awesome, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
We'll talk soon.
Bye.